This is an introductory video for the lunar eclipse. Maybe we'll come back and talk again about it after it happens on March 3rd. And so you see NASA, we get this great cartoon image. We all know the story that they tell us in school. And, you know, where's all the real photos and real images? We're supposed to have, this is actually interesting. I thought there were way more. I recently read something that was like, and I just double checked. Apparently, there's only 15,000 satellites up there. I would have thought that by now we have all sorts of satellites, like hundreds of thousands, the way that they talk about satellites. I think that they realize though, like, well, it's not like we're shooting off rockets like 3 times a day, every day. So they had to pull that number back or something. Anyways, I don't ever remember being told a number, but that just kind of shocked me when I read recently a small number of actual satellites. At least that seems small to me for some reason. It's just one of those lies that they tell about outer space. Oh, we got space junk flying. If you only have 15,000 with the alleged vastness of space, is that really that much? The way that they've been talking about space debris and the images where it looks like there's this cloud of things above Earth. Anyways, a tangential life story I want to talk about. I've recently been looking into getting some balloons filled. That is so expensive. People want $2 to fill a regular latex balloon, just your standard balloon. $2. And this is NASA's fault. NASA, look into this. This fact alone just destroys NASA. And they'll tell you that they use it to launch a rocket or something, which is not a total lie. NASA is the single largest purchaser of helium. They're running up the helium price with all their satellite balloons and probably prepping for end times BS. They're going to have to do stuff in the heavens. It's NASA's fault that it cost $2 to blow up a single balloon. All right, the moon is a 4.5 billion euro. Prove it. Let's see your proof. They're always willing to just throw this stuff out, prove it. The sun is this many miles, prove it. Show me your computations. I went to college, took so many math classes. We never proved anything. You don't got the proof. You just shout out numbers and expect people to believe you. Bullshit. If a lunar eclipse is really Earth's shadow, why is the edge so defined? And why does it have the same curvature as Earth? Is this just another one of those perfect things? Oh, why is the moon the same size? Well, it's just perfect. Well, why in a lunar eclipse, even though the Earth is supposed to be so much bigger than the moon, and shadows are only supposed to get bigger, why does it look the same curvature? Why would it even have a defined edge? Wouldn't it kind of just, I don't know, in my mind, it wouldn't look like it's having a piece eaten out of it if the story they told us was real. Now, I guess I'll just really quickly rant about how, well, NASA, they're so smart, they can predict it. You're stupid, you can't do anything. Back in the days of the Mayans, they could figure this stuff out because it all just follows cycles. If you could count good enough, and if you knew the cycles, you could figure this stuff out. Nobody is figuring out when an eclipse happens by using orbital mechanics. Nobody does that. That's not a real life thing. These things, they just all follow cycles. So NASA's able to do the computations on the cycles in the same way that the Mayans were able to by just counting. The moon begins to enter Earth's umbra and the partial eclipse begins. To the naked eye, as the moon moves into the umbra, it looks like a bite is being taken out of the lunar disk. The part of the moon inside the umbra appears very dark. So it's interesting. I'm going to just have to look with my own eyes. Does it start out really dark and then it starts to turn red? That's interesting, and I don't think that that's how it would necessarily happen if it was just a normal shadow situation. Of course, I believe that the moon is a light and emits its own light, and I don't think that these celestial phenomenon are what NASA says. The entire moon is now in the Earth's umbra. The moon is tinted a coppery red. Try binoculars or a telescope for a better view. If you want to take a photo, use a camera on a tripod with exposures of at least several seconds. at least several seconds. So I guess this is just worth pointing out. Photography is not real life. Videos are not real life. Notice how they even kind of cover their own ass by saying things like, to the naked eye, it appears. Why have they got us to just not even believe our naked eye, but they got us to believe artistic representations of data that we can't even see, that we need an instrument to, a lot of times when we look at a pretty, such a pretty NASA thing, you're looking at like radio waves. You're looking at like X-rays. But they've made it look pretty, and you're making assumptions about the way that real life is based off of something that may not even exist in the visual spectrum. So I just wanted to point that out. Like they talk about exposure time. There's a lot of gatekeeping when it comes to astrophotography, and they're giving you advice for taking nice pictures, but that doesn't necessarily give you a true to real life. It doesn't necessarily, that could be good advice for getting a better picture, but that's not good advice for getting something that represents true real life accurately. Because any of their images about outer space, they're going to gatekeep you, and they want you to do it their way, which most photographs that you see of like a planet or something, they take like thousands of images and they stitch them together using programs. So you literally can't believe your eyes when people show you computer generated images of the heavens. We gotta go back and get visual telescopes and use our real eyes. But even then you have to remember that now you're looking through lenses, and so just remember that you're altering reality whenever you look through even a lens. But the more layers of that, now you're taking a photo which has lenses and are using digital photography, who knows what that does. A lot of iPhones and stuff these days, other cameras probably too, will even put filters in without telling you. Let's finish up the video. Why is it called a blood moon? Well, it appears dark red or orange. I don't know how that's supposed to happen with the shadow, but maybe people can chime in under what scenarios does casting a shadow also turn something red? Because who knows, there could be something to that. But it also could just be total BS. Maybe these eclipses happen because of some sort of interference because these are electromagnetic objects, I believe. What else? I was going to say something. Oh, it just goes back to that orbital mechanics thing. I think people assume the best of NASA, and they assume the super smartest. People really think that to figure out when these phenomena are happening, I think that they think that over at NASA, they're running these 3D models with balls flying everywhere. And I just want to guarantee to you that no, that's not how. They do not predict these things by using orbital mechanics and spaceballs. And they're not usually forthcoming with how they come up with these things. But in my opinion, it's just because everything on Earth here follows a cycle, and the things in the heavens follow cycles. I really don't think that they're using multiple 3D balls rotating around, shadows casting on the balls. Like what? How did they do this stuff before, like Blender or whatever? What is that, the program? But maybe some of you guys get what I'm saying. The way that they compute these phenomenon is not through their model. Their ball Earth model is not what they use to figure these things out. I think there was actually something interesting just talking about where it says it's as if all the world's sunrises and sunsets are projected onto the moon. I thought that was really interesting. Number one, the use of the word projected. And there's that inside joke in the media about, oh, the moon's a hologram. Because that's actually true at a certain point. In my opinion, you know how video games, when a player loads into a video game, they position a sun in the sky or a moon in the sky based off of where that player is. And I think that it's like that for humans, not that God is placing a sun for us, but that the sun and the moon are objects that are observer dependent. And I think it has to do with the fact that the firmament is a giant see-through dome. And so maybe you guys have seen these. There's these like parabolic mirror toys where you put a little toy inside the object and it makes like a 3D, very realistic looking projection. But you go to grab it and it's not there. It's in thin air. It's a 3D projection of your object. And so, in my opinion, that's why it looks like the moon is really close, or it can look like clouds are behind the moon, or it can look like clouds are behind the sun. It looks like that because what we see as the moon or the sun are a projected image that is within the firmament and is actually kind of close. But the object itself is very far away. Another thing that could be happening when it comes to that, I just always think of this, that the sun and the moon and objects in the heavens, to me it looks like when you look through binoculars or when you look through microscopes, sometimes you can get weird phenomenon happening where it starts to look planet-like. And I think it has to do with lenses. It's just a property of lenses. It can make objects look like a sphere. Like in the same way a fisheye lens can make something look like a sphere, even though it's not in real life. Well, lenses can alter reality. Anyway, I thought that was kind of a cool... So the word projected, though, I think is kind of like, hey-o, the moon is a hologram, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But it's interesting, the sunsets thing. So maybe there could be something to that. Maybe the moon's in a very interesting position right now that puts it in kind of a sunset or sunrise kind of mode. I don't know. What do you guys think? I just thought that was kind of interesting. There's other stuff going on in the sky, other crazy stuff. I thought they said something about Leo under the lion's hind paws. That could have some meaning. These were some old things, though. So NASA, what do we get out of NASA these days? The boring cartoons. If I did do a follow-up video on lunar stuff, maybe it'd be trying to look into some historical... The historical diagrams are pretty cool. This one was interesting because it's like straight lines. I thought that was interesting. Well, let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you're going to try to see the moon. I hope you have nice skies March 3rd. And we'll come back after and talk about what we saw and if we believe what NASA tells us. Do you believe what school tells you about the moon and lunar eclipses and solar eclipses, or do you think they're just BSing everybody? God bless everyone.